Welcome to the Soulfire Podcast, where every day we talk about real life, real shit, real raw. On this show, you can expect us to dive deep into topics like marriage, parenting, money, business, feeling like you want to give up, fighting for yourself, just straight soul healing. This podcast is all about life. Hey there, it's Power Coach Alicia here, your source of fun, funny, exciting, entertaining, and educational life coaching, transformational speaking, and soul healing. We're talking about setting your soul on fire. I specialize in helping women put themselves first without feeling guilty, getting out of their own way, and finding themselves again. No fluff, no hand-holding, no bullshit here, just love, light, and peace as we journey through this thing called life. I don't even know where to start. I seriously have so much to fucking say, and I don't even know where to start. It has been quite the journey since Venus went retrograde on July 22nd, 2023. Probably should have done a Venus retrograde podcast because life's been quite chaotic and nut jobby, I would say. So if you've been feeling this heavy energy and just really feeling like you're going through it, just know that we'll be in it for a while. Between the pre-shadow of Venus retrograde, Venus being retrograde, Venus going direct, and the post-shadow, we're going to be in this Venus retrograde energy until November 4th. So I'll definitely be doing a podcast episode on it. I am a double Venus sign. If you don't know what any of this means, don't worry. Over time, it'll start to make sense if you just hang out with me here. As also, if you hang out with me and really dive into my Spirit of the Soul episodes, because they're all about astrology, angel cards, tarot cards, crystals, all that good stuff. But we are going to take some time on the podcast and, do a series of all this planetary craziness, because by the end of the year, we'll have 7 planets in retrograde. So it's worth it to bring it to the main fucking podcast instead of just the YouTube channel. So with all that being said, I'm definitely going through it. It has been a crazy 4 months. I definitely started my fucking craziness in April of 2023, and I feel like it's finally calming down as we are in literally August of 2023. So it's been a crazy wild ride for the last 4 months for me specifically. But I will say that I am welcoming some peace before Mercury is retrograde, which happens August 23rd, 2023. So that would be yesterday, from the day that you are listening to this podcast episode. So hopefully you listen to this on time. But if not, and you catch it during the retrograde, you're going to know what's going on. Maybe you'll catch it in the post-shadow. You'll know why things happen the way they did and, what's going on for you in your life as well. So, my intention with this is just to bring you some much needed information to help you guide through what's going on around you and inside of you. So I want to first start out in sharing that retrogrades make you go back, look at, it's introspection, right? So Mercury retrograde is really, in a personal standpoint, about going in and looking at your own communication, your feelings, how you communicate them, where you're coming from. It's a right? So you're redoing, you're revamping, you're reviewing, and it's again a really big time for introspection. One thing that I will warn you of with Mercury retrograde is having any serious or big conversations during the time until Mercury goes direct. So after September 6th, 2023, then you can have those conversations. I highly recommend that you grab a notepad on your phone or a physical notepad, and any things that come up for you during this time, you just write them down, make a note of them, how you're feeling, what's on your mind, get it all out on that, physical or digital notepad. And then on September 7th, the day after it goes direct, you can pull out the different things that were tabled during that couple of weeks and see, are they still things that matter? Are they still things you want to bring up? Are they still conversations that you want to have? Are they still things that are affecting you. It is so important that you heed this advice. I will tell you that in the 12 years that I have been dabbling in astrology until this year, I've really like delved way deeper into it. Anytime I have gone against that, it has always been a fucking shit show. It's always backfired in my face. So if there's nothing else that you get from this episode, it's do not have deep, important, meaningful, turbulent, challenging conversations during Mercury retrograde. Mercury is the planet that rules communication. So it being retrograde is things being discombobulated as well, right? And you'll have to revisit it and fix it anyways. So if you just trust me on this, it'll save you that heartache. Now, Mercury retrograde happens approximately 3 times a year for about 3 weeks at a time. Now, the 3 weeks that it's happening is usually just the retrograde, right? So then you also have your pre and post shadow. So it tends to last a little longer. And just depending on your birth chart and what's going on in that chart would determine how the pre-shadow affects you, the post-shadow affects you, or if it's the retrograde that affects you. Also in what zodiac sign it's in, like there's a lot of different things that affect that. So you might be affected by Mercury retrograde by the pre-shadow. By the time you listen to this episode, the pre-shadow is going to be done because then Mercury will be retrograde. Maybe this time it is the retrograde that's affecting you deeper. And that is the time that it's really just kicking your ass and, you know, you're going in and you're diving in, you're clearing things out and you're reviewing and you're, you know, getting clear on things. Or maybe it's that post shadow after September 6th where you really start to feel the effects of the retrograde. It's just paying attention to how that retrograde affects you and what's going on. And it's not going to always be the same. Sometimes for me, it's the pre, sometimes it's actual retrograde. Not usually is it post, unless I made some decisions and had some conversations during the actual retrograde that now it's affecting me in the post shadow. So I just wanted to share that with you. Like I said, it's the planet of communication. So it tends to breed a certain level of confusion. And that happens because Mercury rules our lower mind and how we perceive and interpret information that we receive from our environment. It's also how we relay that information that we, or how we relay that information to others, right? So again, if it's discombobulated and it's time for review and it's time for introspection and you're going outwardly with that information, it can really fuck a lot of things up. Mercury has that rulership over speaking, negotiating, buying and selling, listening, formatting contracts, especially formal contracts, documents, travel, the mail, shipping, so forth. Anything that creates a connection between two people, you're going to notice that it can get really discombobulated when Mercury is retrograde. All of these things are affected, right? And it also is affected in it functioning in a sluggish state or a confused sort of state. Also, the other thing to keep in mind, because this is really an inner thing, decision making is challenged during Mercury retrograde. So needless to say, it's not advised to sign contracts, engage in important decision making, or launch a new business. Delays and challenges are more probable with Mercury retrograde. So it's really just a time to pay attention. Because if not, you'll also notice that you'll be careless with money, with your personal information, and paperwork, which all those things can be very costly, okay? This is a great time to be rethinking a previous opinion or idea. If you come up with new ideas during Mercury retrograde, sit down and, write out or type out what you're thinking about, what ideas you're coming up with, what you want to do with those ideas. And then once it goes direct, you can you can also create your plan during retrograde. And then once it goes direct, so again, that's September 6th, 2023. So on September 7th, you can now start putting that plan in motion, right? So you can just wait till that next day and put that plan in motion. So during retrograde is all about the time of thinking, processing, figuring out what you want to do, making your plans, and also pay attention to how you feel during that time. Some days you might be really creative and excited and you have a lot on your mind and you're ready to go and like boom, 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 right? And then there's going to be other moments where you're sluggish, you're tired, you need downtime, right? You need to recalibrate. Always, always, always listen to your body and what's going on. Now, this is in pre-shadow, but last night I was in the bath and first of all, I don't know why the fuck I do this, but I make my baths like excruciating fucking hot. I don't know. I've lived in this house for forever and I still haven't figured out when the fuck to add the cold water, so it's not crazy hot. But anyways, I digress from that. So I get in this bath and it's crazy fucking hot. You know, I have to add a fuck ton of cold water and, you know, I'm doing it basically the entire time I'm in the bath. Well, this happens every fucking time I take a bath. And so what happens is it's like a whole experience, my baths are. I mean, you've got the bath bomb in there, you've got the bath salt, sometimes there's essential oils. This bath had magnesium flakes because I wanted to shed a lot of emotional feelings that I was feeling, the trauma that I was feeling, the sadness in my soul. I just wanted to get it all out so that I could start today anew, knowing that I was going into retrograde and just wanting to feel more fresh and whole before the chaoticness ensued. Which for me, I really think I went through that in the pre-shadow. Fucking communication has been a shit show. So for me, I think the Mercury retrograde in Virgo has already hit me in the pre-shadow. So I'm hoping that the actual retrograde just is some reprieve and, you know, me now making the plans and coming up with ideas and da-da-da-da. But my point in sharing this with you is I always force myself to stay in the bath longer because it's this whole production. There's lights and candles and music and it's just all the things because baths are very sacred to my soul and something that really is amazing for cleansing and resetting me. So I force myself usually to stay in the bath longer because in my head, I've made all this effort, right? I've put this bath together and I don't want to waste it. But I never really think of it like it's not a waste if that time is up and I feel complete in that bath and I got what I needed from it. I can just get out. So I'll force myself to stay longer and longer and longer. And then what happens is because it was so hot to begin with, by the time I get out, it takes forever for my body to regulate temperature. It's very hot. My heart's pounding. I usually have to lay on the floor. And then it becomes a whole fiasco instead of an experience after the fact. But last night, there was this moment where my intuition was like, it's time to get out of the bath, right? I got out. So I got out in that exact moment. And yeah, it was still really, really, really hot. I sat on my chair for a while, but I was able to get up and lotion and just move forward and go and play Apex with the kids because I was listening to what my body needed at the moment. So I guess I'm just sharing that to say, always pay attention to what your body needs, what it's saying it needs, your intuition, that nudge, and moving forward or not, right? And saying yes or no, and taking the action or not, right? That's where that comes from, not your mind, but from that intuition in your soul. That's what's guiding you forward. So while Mercury is retrograde, you might be actually thinking of a previous opinion or idea. So if you're into astrology or you want to dive into astrology, I would definitely recommend an app that's called Horos, Horos. I fucking love it. I just barely found out about it yesterday. So now I want to scream from the rooftops about it. But look to the signs and the houses in transit, okay? So if you download that app and you put in your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location, and you're looking at the signs and the houses in transit, it can give you guidance and clues to what you might need to be reconsidering during this time of retrograde. There is nothing better than taking time to learn you. Nothing better than that. Stepping in and taking time to learn you. I have been really, really, really embracing that and studying that through astrology and diving deeper into me, my past life, what happened as a child, you know, the things I need to grow through, healing wounds, where my anger and resentment lies in me, all of those things. So I know myself better and what's going on inside of me. Now, there is a big positive side to Mercury retrograde. It gets a bad rap that, you know, it's all bad and it's all shit and it's all horrible, but it's not. This period is best used for reorganizing and reflecting. We've kind of already hit on that a little bit, you know. We look at the world a little differently while Mercury is retrograde through different filters. And that can help you come up with very important inner revelations. Because remember, Mercury retrograde is about the inside, really, like what is going on inside of you. That's the personal side of it. Now, it may be difficult to communicate what you come up with during this influence of retrograde, but not everything needs to be rationalized or done something with in the moment. This was a hard lesson for me to learn because I'm a very learn something, move human. I am not a learn something, hold. Well, the last 4 months of my life, I've really been learning to just learn and hold. And it's been hard for me because I'm a very big action taker, right? When I get an idea, when I feel it, when I know it, it's let's fucking go. It's who the fuck I am to my core. But the last 4 months, I've learned to learn and hold, right? What is that teaching me? What do I need to learn? Is that what I really want to do? Do I really want to move? Is this who I want to be with? Is this who I want to put my energy in? Is this who I want to, or that I do value, honor, and respect, and vice versa, right? Like, are these people putting that energy into me? So on and so forth. So that holding has given me a perspective that has helped me really fucking grow a lot in just 4 months. You know, I always say this, like, and this season is called the journey of the soul, right? This is all about your journey. And sometimes you're going to be moving at light speed. The last 4 months, I feel like it's been a fucking snail's pace, but the transformation that I've had as a human and what I've learned so much during this time is crazy. It can almost be the equivalent of 10 years of my journey of personal development and growth. And I've been on this journey for 16 years, right? So sometimes when you're in it, it feels like a snail's pace. But as you're coming out the other side, you can look at your growth and you can see that it's lightning speed. Now, with Mercury retrograde, periods of time can feel like heightened inner awareness, especially through meditation. So it's really important that you keep a journal and that during this time you're reworking old plans, that you're reviewing past work, okay? It's powerful, powerful, powerful energy for studies, particularly for returning to the old studies or relearning or refreshing knowledge in a subject that you already have. And this is really cool because I have been in motion of launching a new business as a vehicle for my bigger goals and what I really want to do. And so I already know and I already have the knowledge in the business world. I am a phenomenal business coach. I can turn any business from shit to gold or an idea to income extremely fucking fast. We launched a landscaping business knowing nothing about landscaping. I hadn't even coached a fucking landscaper for $46 and turned it into a multiple six-figure a year business. So I know the industry, but in this moment, I'm actually relearning this industry from a different perspective for the business that I'm going to launch. So that's beautiful. So I'm going to take this Mercury retrograde, this time to really dive deep into that and continue that learning, but from that different perspective and devising the plan that I'm going to implement starting September 7th after Mercury is direct, right? Because I haven't actually started. I actually haven't invested. I haven't taken the actual action. So unless I do it today that I am recording this podcast, I will not do it until Mercury is direct. And because I'm not ready for forward action yet, I'm still in planning stages and exactly how I want this to look. I'm going to just use this time for that knowledge, that relearning, that refreshing, and plus learning from that different perspective. Now, there can be minor breaks in mechanical aspects of communication, and that can actually work to reconnect us to other means of communication. So pay attention that breakdowns are breakthroughs, that problems are actual solutions, that what seems bad and hard is actually power and energy and growth for you if you're paying attention to that. All right? So like an unexpected power outage. In that moment, you're forced off the computer and the television, and you're forced to find different and often more satisfying ways to entertain yourself, but also connect with those around you. It's also important to note that there's no reason to suspend projects or anything like that during Mercury retrograde. It's just not an ideal time to start new ones or to sign contracts because a change of mind is quite likely once Mercury is direct. So you don't have to stop or suspend. You can keep moving full steam ahead and stuff that has already started with high caution that there could still be things that get fucked up and you got to fix and go back and revisit because, again, it's all things. Retrograde is going backwards for you to learn the lessons that you needed to learn under what that planet rules, which is communication, so that when you come out the other side, you have those lessons. And if you don't learn the lessons, you'll have to do it over and over and over again until you fucking learn it, right? We talk about that pretty much all the time. It is a fabulous time to do some out-of-the-box thinking. Okay. Again, but acting on those ideas are best left for after Mercury is direct. So again, September 7th is a great time for that. Pay very close attention to what you say and communicate in general, particularly around the days of Mercury stations. So what that means is when Mercury is moving. So on August 23rd, that's when it starts retrograde. On September 15th, that's when the post shadow ends. So on August 23rd is when it starts the retrograde. That's a day that you want to be very, very, very mindful of communications, which at the time you're listening to this, it was yesterday. But if something got fucked up yesterday, now it's time to put it on the notepad, say all of how you felt about it. Now we're going to talk about it on September 7th or later. On September 15th, that is a good time to be very, very, very mindful of how you're communicating. Because when the planet is moving, right, in that active action, things can get fucked up. All right? And again, on September 6th, we've already talked about it. That's, again, it's going to be moving and stationing direct. So not a good time to be really spouting off the mouth, right, and just saying whatever comes to mind. Pay attention. These are all good days. So August 23rd to September 6th, you should be tabling everything anyways. But those exact days, pay attention to what is coming up and what you're saying, right? Hey, are you loving this? To get even more soul fire, soul healing products, and to download the free gifts that I have for you, go to soulfirepodcast.com. Again, that's soulfirepodcast.com. If you're really, really, really itching to make a point with someone, especially, again, if you're signing any sort of contract, it is very important to hold off because, again, it's likely that you're going to have a change of mind, a change of heart, especially on these station phases days, and you can do some damage with the things that now you no longer feel or believe to be true. When the planets are moving into these stations, the energies are very strong in our life. Right? So when Mercury stations, communications have more impact. So those negative ones could have long-term implications when, again, it wasn't something that you meant. It wasn't something that you ended up feeling. But if you're very, very, very clear within yourself and about what you're communicating, this can also be a positive thing because it's going to come out the way that it comes out and it's going to impact the way that it impacts, but you 100% know who you are, how you feel, what you stand for, and where you come from. Listen, I am that human. I know myself through and fucking through, but still during this time, I table things and put them on a notepad. Now, on that notepad, I say every fucking thing that I wanted to say, every fucking thing that I feel, exactly what is going on inside of me in the moment. Because I know myself so well that there is probably a 90% chance that when Mercury is direct and we're through this, I still feel that way. I don't want to fucking say it to you, right? But I still don't say it to the person or do my best not to. Generally, I don't, as long as I know that Mercury is retrograde and what's going on, because once it's all done, I usually don't feel that way. I would say, again, 90% of the time, it's not that I don't, let me rephrase. It's not that I don't feel that way. It's just not as important of a point to make from the position I was making that point. I guess that's how I would say it to make it stronger and more actually how I am. So when it's all over, I still feel that way, but I don't know, it's not as charged. The thought process has changed. I see things from a different perspective. So we'll still have the conversation, but it'll come from a different perspective than it would have when Mercury was retrograde. Generally, when Mercury is retrograde, I'm pretty aggressive. And so that's the standpoint it comes from, like, fuck you, I don't give a shit. Now, you might be feeling tired or disoriented or like you're just not yourself. And there's a good chance you can blame that on Mercury retrograde. Because when the planet of communication and cognitive function is spinning backwards from our perspective here on Earth, it has a way of making your brain work twice as hard in order to function. All right? Now, Although everyone will feel its classic symptoms, you need to look at how Mercury retrograde is actually going to affect your zodiac signs during this time, because it will paint a much deeper picture of what this experience means for you personally, okay? The other thing about it is that when I go through the Mercury retrograde through the signs and how it affects each of them, you're going to want to look at your sun, moon, and rising or ascendant. If you don't want to look at all three, just look at your ascendant. But I highly recommend that you look at all three because sun represents your ego and your motivations. Your moon is your emotional state, how you handle things, how you operate internally. And your ascendant is how you show up in the world, how others perceive you, and how you want to be perceived. So if you look at all three of these during retrograde, it's going to tell you different aspects of you during this time. If you only look at ascendant, it's just going to be outwardly, right? If you only look at your moon, it's just going to be inwardly. And if you only look at sun, you're only getting your ego and motivations in life. So you're missing the other aspects that can really help you work with these energies and grow with yourself during this time. So let's dive in. We are going to start with Aries. When Mercury is retrograde, it will mark the start of a major self-care overhaul. Stationing retrograde in your 6th house. I can't read or fucking talk today. Stationing retrograde in your 6th house of health and work. It's time to take a long look at the habits that you rely on and the routines that you carry through your day. Are they supporting your highest growth? Are they bringing you a sense of accomplishment without draining your energy to the dregs? It's time to rethink the methods, regimen, and rituals that you live by. This retrograde could also cause confusion at your day job, perhaps even forcing you to return to unfinished projects that have been weighing on your mind. This retrograde wants to help you work on becoming more streamlined and intentional in the way you go about your day-to-day life. Once Mercury stations direct, which is actually September 6th, you might start getting into a better groove when it comes to getting your tasks done for the day. If you don't notice it on that September 6th, 7th time, then you're going to feel those things after September 15th, after the post shadow. Productivity is like a muscle. You work hard, but you also need adequate rest. And the longer you stay off that horse, the less you love the idea of getting back on. Don't overthink the process because it all begins one step at a time. So that is for Aries. Taurus, which is my sun sign. Woo! Get excited, Taurus. This Mercury retrograde may be complicated and confusing, holy fuck to say the least. But the experience could eventually become rather interesting and enticing. When it begins on August 23rd, it will station retrograde in your 5th house of pleasure, lust, and creativity, which could lower the heat in your current relationship and leave you artistically stifled. Well, I'm glad it lowers the heat. I'm sure Daniel will be happy about that. However, there's a good chance you may connect with an old lover, which will remind you of a feeling you've been missing. It can even encourage you to pick up a creative project you have abandoned and pick up where you left off. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th, but the post shadow on September 15th, you may feel your creative juices begin to return as you come to terms with what inspired you during these past 3 weeks. You may even feel like you're in a mood to start crushing on someone or someone new, or you're feeling prepared to enhance the romance in your relationship. Either way, this Mercury retrograde isn't looking like the end of the world because it will also come with plenty of experiences that inspire and reignite your heart. Yes! I need that. I need that. All right, Gemini. You crave human connection, but that doesn't mean a thriving home environment is without its problems. Is there a pile of laundry in your room you've been refusing to fold? Are you and your relatives dealing with a disagreement? Are you working too often to even enjoy being at home? As Mercury stations retrograde in your 4th house of home and family on August 23rd, it will encourage you to heal your relationship with your roots as you water the new ones you've been planting. Home may be the place we come from, but it's also the place we wind up next. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th or post-shadow September 15th, you may find the strength to solve conflicts in your family and set the necessary boundaries to protect your energy. After all, dealing with family and domestic issues can be draining, but it's important to remember that you have all the power to create the home and family of your dreams. It all begins with the courage to change things. If that is not beautiful for Gemini. By the way, Gemini is Daniel's sun sign. Yes, indeed. My husband. All right, dear Cancer. You might be putting your foot in your mouth while Mercury is retrograde, so remember to think before you speak. After all, this retrograde would take place in your third house of communication. I feel bad for Cancers. Mercury retrograde. Mercury is the planet of communication. It is going backwards to revisit, and it is in your third house of communication. Whew. That will bring up conversations that it didn't end the best note. Okay, so they didn't end on the best note. Who knows when those conversations happen? It could be years ago, and this is resurfacing. Prepare for people who ghosted to suddenly start replying. However, the main thing you need to remember is to triple check all correspondences and make sure that you're backing up your important documents, as tech errors may be inevitable for Cancer. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th or post-shadow September 15th, you may finally come to a conclusion regarding a conflict or never-ending conversation. Although this retrograde to show you how to find the right words or to say what you want to say and encourage you to communicate with intention rather than self-satisfaction. At the end of the day, it all depends on what approach you tend to take. Oh my God, let me fucking say all that again. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th or September 15th post-shadow, you may finally come to conclusion regarding a conflict or never-ending conversation. Allow this retrograde to show you how to find the right words to say what you want to say and encourage you to communicate with intention rather than self-satisfaction. At the end of the day, it all depends on the approach you choose to take. Woo! Got it out that time. Leo. You've been going through some intense internal challenges lately, especially with Venus continuing its retrograde through Leo until September 3rd. This may mean that your relationship and self-image have been going through a major overhaul as you reassess what you value in life. However, as Mercury stations retrograde on August 23rd, it will cause you to reflect on your self-worth and spending habits, especially if you've been hedging your bets on all the wrong things. Taking place in your second house of stability and self-esteem, this retrograde may leave you feeling like you have a need for something that you can't satisfy. However, it will also challenge you to rethink what you're choosing to align your values with. This retrograde will give you some extra time to gather your bearings before you head into the future, so take your time. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th or post-shadow September 15th, financial issues will begin to resolve themselves, especially after you've been working on healing your relationship with money and getting to the core of the issue. Remember, money wants to be in your life, but if you believe you don't deserve it or you'll never have it, it becomes a lot harder to see the financial opportunities when they're right in front of you. Virgo. Get ready, Virgo, because this Mercury retrograde has your name on it, literally. Taking place in your first house of self, Mercury will station retrograde as of August 23rd, and the experience could lead to a total reevaluation of yourself. Woo! So listen, if you're Virgo rising, okay, which a couple of my friends are, and my husband is as well. If you are a Virgo rising, that means, or your ascendant, that means in how you show up in the world, how other people perceive you, or how you want to be perceived by other people will have a full reevaluation. Okay? Pay attention to that. Now, also, because your sun sign in Virgo is of yourself, right? Your ego. You're going to notice the overhaul of your foundation. Habits, personality traits, characteristics that were the foundation of you, that at this time you're doing a full reevaluation of and an overhaul on the ones that no longer serve you. So this is fucking huge. Who have you been? Who are you becoming? Who are you right now? And no, I'm not talking about who are you when someone else needs you. I'm talking about the personality you adopt when you're in that people pleaser mode or that self-image mode. I'm talking about the real you. It's time to remember the person that you've always been, especially if you set that person aside for the sake of someone else's needs or of your image of what someone thinks about you. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th or post-shadow September 15th, you may feel like a different person, or at least a more honest version of the person you already are. Don't be afraid to look inward during this retrograde, because you may feel less inclined to express yourself to others and more in the mood to have the conversations with yourself. Holy fucking shit. If that does not literally apply to the Virgos I know, holy God. Okay. So Libra, I'm a Libra ascendant. Let's see what we got going on here. Prepare to do a deep dive into your psyche. After all, Mercury is stationed retrograde in your spiritual 12th house, which could bring you face to face with your shadow self. Fucking A has it. Remember, the shadow self is neither the negative aspects of your personality nor the positive. It merely represents all parts of you that remain subconscious, unseen, and unrealized. I can see that, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, the amazing, the beautiful, all of it. However, your will to succeed is stronger than any fears you might have, especially when your emotions are also your most motivating force. Although you may feel more quiet and reserved during this time, this break from the social scene also giving your subconscious a chance to piece together what still doesn't make sense and process all you've been feeling and experiencing. Oh my God. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th or post-shadow September 15th, you may feel as though you're waking up from a long dream filled with highs and lows. You may feel more rested, as though your subconscious finally had the opportunity to rest from all the commotion you've endured over the past year. Use this retrograde to embrace forgiveness and to truly work on letting go of what no longer is your responsibility to carry. Oh man, that is so fucking powerful. Gotta breathe that in for a second. All right, Scorpios. Remember, you guys, you're looking at sun, moon, and rising signs. You would need your birth date, birth time, and location of birth to get this. Put it in on the Horos app. RORS. Oh my God. HOROS. Holy fucking shit. I guess we already are starting the Mercury retrograde bullshit. HOROS. All right, so Scorpio, not feeling the vibe? If so, it makes sense. Mercury is stationing retrograde in your 11th house of community, which may leave you feeling like leaving the party even though you've just arrived. If you're on the outs with your clique, it may be time to communicate and get to the bottom of what went wrong. However, this may not indicate trouble in your friend group at all. Instead, it speaks to the process of reconnecting with old colleagues, acquaintances, and teammates that you've lost touch with. After all, they might have something to teach you. So prepare to learn a lot about what makes a team work together than against each other. Because 11th house also shines a light on your hopes and ideals, you may spend time rethinking your vision of the future and what you want it to look like. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th or the post-shadow on September 15th, you begin to process a more positive and healthy attitude towards your peers. While you may feel confident in your decision to create distance between you and the people you've outgrown at this point in your life, you're also creating space for new people to enter your world. Sagittarius. It's time to rethink the competitive side of your personality. Because Mercury is retrograding through your 10th house of career, this will likely throw a wrench in some of your professional plans, especially if they were on shaky ground to begin with. It's time to think outside the box when it comes to problems related to your social standing and your public-facing persona, because you can't always rely on appearances. However, these challenges will also help you rethink what you bring to the table and how you choose to market it. You may be returning to abandoned or unfinished professional projects and rethinking the way you deal with superiors. You may even receive the long-awaited recognition for achievement that flew under the radar in the past. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th or post-shadow September 15th, you'll have a much better understanding of what career move you're ready to make next. You may even feel ready to work your way back up to the position of confidence, know-how, and strength, especially if this retrograde knocked you down a few pegs. Stay humble, open to learning, and ready to get back up over and over again, because that's the only way to stay in the game. Capricorn. Feeling a bit lost and unmoored lately? If so, it's no wonder, because Mercury will station retrograde in your 9th house of travel and expansion. This could confuse your inner compass and take you down an unexpected path. So embrace detours and delays that force you to take the road less traveled. Even if you have no clue where you are, life isn't meant to be lived with a GPS at all moments. Allow the wind to take you somewhere that is both fascinating and confronting. It is during moments where you feel untethered that you deepen your sense of faith. Because life always has a way of bringing you home when you think you've completely drifted off course. You may find yourself returning to educational pursuits or renewing your commitment to faith-based systems during this time. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th or post-shadow September 15th, you may feel your sense of direction returning, especially if you've been gradually zeroing in on what you're interested in and what you believe in. By the time this retrograde comes to an end, you'll have learned something valuable and experienced something that you never could have planned for yourself. Aquarius. Ooh, this is my moon sign. Here we go. This retrograde may be in the mood to settle debts and evaluate the level of return on your investments. After all, Mercury will station retrograde in your 8th house of transactions. Which may bring up some financial damages that still require your attention. If money isn't accounted for, it's time to locate where it may all have gone, especially if your assets haven't been particularly organized. However, you'll also explore the darkest, most taboo reaches of your life during this retrograde, as the 8th house is where all your deepest secrets live. Oh, great. During this 3-week-long glitch in the matrix, you may find intimacy in unexpected places, especially if there are still emotional strings tying you to a past that no longer exists. You may find yourself realizing that you stayed in a situation way past its expiration date. It's time to make peace and set yourself free. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th or September 15th post-shadow, you'll be ready to set fire to what no longer has a hold over you and move on. Much like the phoenix rising from the ashes, it's time to let go of what you've long since outgrown. Pisces. Prepare to do a deep dive into your relationships, Pisces. It's time to evaluate whole understanding of harmony and togetherness, because Mercury will station retrograde in your 7th house of partnerships. This may bring up the trauma of heartbreak and the sting of prior disappointments in your partnerships, but only so that you can see how far you've come since past events. You're healing. In fact, you've been healing. It's time to start processing how much progress you've made, because you don't need someone else to complete you. A relationship thrives when two people feel inspired to come together rather than forced to. All you're responsible for is fulfilling your end of the bargain. This retrograde could put you back in touch with allies from your past and even enemies as you rediscover which relationships bring out the best in you and which don't. Once Mercury stations direct on September 6th or September 15th post-shadow, communication issues with your allies, enemies, business partners, and significant others will be easier to iron out. You may come to terms with certain relationships you're ready to leave behind and the relationships you're in the mood to start back up again. So this retrograde brings a lot, right? I feel like Sagittarius is getting it lightly. I feel like Sagittarius is the one sign through all of this. It's just kind of chill through this. I mean, I get it. There's a lot going on in career for Sag, but emotionally there isn't a lot going on. Pretty much for everyone else, this retrograde is fucking shaking the shit out of us in all 3 of our areas, sun, moon, and rising signs, right? In that ego and foundation and soul, who you are, and your emotions, how you process things emotionally, how you work through things, how you show up in the world, how people perceive you, and how you want people to perceive you. There's a lot that this retrograde is going to impact on a very deep level through all zodiac signs. So you might have to listen to this a few times and make some notes on what it means for you, because it's huge, right? Like, it's big. You can take the energies of the universe and really do some powerful work with it. You can take the energies of the planets and all of the things and utilize them to change your fucking life, right? Or you can stick your head in the sand and hear all this and go, what the fuck is this bitch talking about? She sounds fucking crazy. None of this is me. I don't believe in any of this. And you're going to go through life and it's just going to still affect you as it would have affected you. But you're not going to understand why. You're not going to understand what you can do to work with the energies and what you can do to be mindful. How to not go through and just fucking destruct your whole life because you're going through in an energetic cycle of the universe, a plummet of emotional growth, but you don't realize it. And you think that it's your partner or it's your fucking kids or it's your friend or it's your job. And really, truly, this is a lesson of growth that you're meant to go through at this time, but you're just avoiding it, right? I have that podcast episode that says, stop idealizing avoidance and embrace conflict. If you haven't listened to that episode, great time to fucking do that. I love that podcast episode. It's one of my most brilliant pieces of work that just came out of my soul one day. I truly appreciate you being here. Like I said, it's been a rough fucking 4 months. I mean, July and August has been enough to bring me to my knees. But the one thing that I always know about myself is I always stand back up. I always brush off my knees. And the most amazing, phenomenal people are already here around me, helping me and just pushing me onto that path or just guiding me back onto that path. But the universe is always bringing new people into my world to either help me grow or just to see the beauty that's within myself. And I love that. And it is so beautiful. And every single one of you that listens to my podcast are part of that beauty. So I just want to say thank you. Remember this sacred truth. Say yes to yourself, for within you lies infinite worth. Let your heart be your compass, guiding you on a path of self-discovery and liberation. Grant yourself the grace to stumble and rise, for it is in our imperfections that we find our strength. Embrace the dance of progress, where each step forward fuels the fire within you. And with massive power and deep, deep, deep soul conviction, let this be your anthem, your unwavering declaration. I choose me. I'm Power Coach Alicia, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Soul Fire podcast. You being here means the world to me, and I'm grateful for the time that you've dedicated to be here. And by consistently showing up, I firmly believe that you will transform your life. I'm so grateful that you've subscribed and you continue to share with others, spreading my message far and wide, because together we can reach my mission of transforming the lives of 1 million souls on their healing journey. Now, to provide you even more support on your soul healing journey and address any questions you may have, I would like to invite you to join our soul healing community. Simply visit community.thesoulhealingzone.com. Again, that's community.thesoulhealingzone.com, where you can connect with like-minded women, share your top takeaways, discuss what resonated with your soul, and express your absolute favorite moments from this episode. I can't wait to read them. I'm so freaking excited to create more empowering episodes and continue supporting you. I am sending you so much love, light, and peace as we journey through this thing called life.